Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock. Time for another exciting episode of Toy Tuesday. Now, what do we got tonight? Not really sure. Just got here. Haven't looked at it that close. Glanced at it, kind of got a ballpark idea, but haven't really studied much of this stuff yet. Why? Because I just got it. Tractor Mike was here earlier this afternoon and dropped off a load of stuff. He came to town to pick up the Model A that he had bought at the F&E Collector Auto Auction. Didn't buy it at the auction. We got a deal done right after the auction on it. So he come to get that. And with Tractor Mike and I, we're always trading stuff back and forth. Always kind of keeping our eyes peeled for stuff the other one we know might like. Pete's here with us. And we just hadn't caught up in a little bit. We see each other, but we're back and forth and back and just, never really stopped and got caught up. I had toys I had bought for him, tractors and things like that. He had some stuff that he knew that I'd like. He'd picked up some auctions. So he's like, I'm throwing this stuff in. I'm heading your way. We're grabbing the Model A, and I'm heading home. So John's here. So he loaded up some stuff, and he headed this way, and we sorted it all out this afternoon. Kevin L's here. But like I said, I'd bought some toy tractors for him at a garage sale. I'd found a pedal tractor for him. So had some cool stuff for him. He had some cool stuff for me, and that's what we're going to check out tonight. So I had taken Tractor Mike's Model A to the yard because I didn't know when he was going to get here. Ron's here. He just happened to get wet. They had some rain last night. It was too wet for him to run. I took the Model A to the yard last week just because I didn't know if he was coming this week or 2 months from now. It just happened to work out that he got it today. Bill here from Hershey. Hitting Hershey today. So, what we've got, Tractor Mike got here. He unloaded this stuff. We loaded up his stuff, went out to the yard, got the Model A, looked through some of the buildings out there, got some stuff loaded up. Big job made it tonight that I've had sitting out there for him. And we just kind of washed it all out. And he's like, yeah, we square. I was like, okay. And then he found some John Deere radios and stuff I'd had set back for him. He's like, oh, these are cool. So he grabbed those and some other stuff. And he's like, we're still square. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. It works. Mike and I trade enough stuff back and forth. It really doesn't matter. There's some times I may come out ahead. There's some times he may come out ahead. It really doesn't matter because we do so much stuff back and forth. It all comes out in the wash. So Peter from Down Under, JP made it tonight. So anyway, let's check out what Tractor Mike dropped off for me. Got the car guy made it back tonight. Steve's here. Let's start checking out some of this cool stuff that Tractor Mike just dropped off. Starting off with a paint can. Yes, a paint can. Now, we do a lot of oil cans, things like that on here, but this is a paint can, but it's still a great can because the graphics are amazing. Chippewa Chief Clear Lacquer. This was a quart paint can. Dries in 20 to 30 minutes. A firm, high luster finish coat for interior and exterior wood and metal. On the Chippewa Chief Clear Lacquer. Check this can out. How's that for graphics? This is a paper label on a metal can. Chicago Paints Incorporated. Quite a can. Yeah, I said it's great graphics for sure. Original price of $1.70 for a quart of paint. Up next, we've got something that is somewhat gas and oil related, but it's not gas and oil. That's right, guy, the car guy. You could never use that today. No way. From our friends at Standard. Obviously, we're familiar with the Standard Oil Company. Oils, fuels, things like that. But how about Standard Oil Company Weed Killer? Check out this jar. 2,4-D Standard Weed Killer. Brown glass bottle. Still actually has some weed killer in it. Maybe we shouldn't drink this. I wonder if this actually says do not drink contents. I'm going to check and see. Okay, the only warnings this has on the bottle. It does actually have a warning section on it. Avoid drift of 2,4-D onto vegetables, flowers, shrubs, because 2,4-D is a broadleaf, so of course you don't want it getting onto that stuff. It says be careful about applying so that you don't get it on plants you don't want to kill, which makes perfect sense. May cause skin irritation. Avoid contact with eyes, skin, and clothing. But absolutely nothing about do not drink. They literally did not have to put do not drink the weed killer on the jar at this point. On the Standard Oil 2,4-D weed killer jar. Tractor Mike dropped all this stuff. Everything we're checking out tonight, Tractor Mike just unloaded a few hours ago. Now, the next piece he found for me, I'm going to stump you with for just a second. Make you guys think here. Hey, there's Tractor Mike. He did make it home safe. Huge shout out to Tractor Mike. Everything we're looking at tonight is his fault. So, the next piece, fresh from Tractor Mike, is Dan from Defiance is here. A barbecue set. A barbecue set? The heck are we doing with a barbecue set? Believe it or not, this is automotive related, even though it is a barbecue set. It does have the silica gel. Do not eat in the silica gel. So why do we have a barbecue set? No, he didn't sweep. He just unloaded stuff. And this is actually why this is really cool to me. Hubcap Dylan's here. This is an official 5-star barbecue set. So this was a Chrysler promotional piece back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I actually like 5-star stuff. I've got a 5-star sign over in the other building. 5-star was my days when I was there. 5-star was a big deal. The customer quality, things like that, was all 5-star. The dealerships had to meet certain standards to be rated 5-star. And so there was a huge push for 5-star when I was there. So all this 5-star stuff, to me, is extremely familiar to me and really rings a lot of bells because I lived through this. I dealt with this. I dealt with the 5-star program with all the dealerships that I worked with. So the 5-star stuff to me, even though a lot of people look at 5-star and say, that ain't that old, I think it's cool because that was part of my time with Chrysler, the days that I actually was in warranty administration, working with dealerships, working with a 5-star certification program. So I was somewhat familiar with a lot of this stuff. So I think it's pretty cool. Let's see. Yep, exactly, Pete. What else did Tractor Mike drop off today? He actually dropped something off I got to do a little bit of research on. 81 was Mopar's last year down under, so. This I'm not really sure, but it's super cool. I don't know if Randy is on, if Randy Weiniger or Totally VW, maybe some of you guys could help us out with that. I worked all the time. I worked hard. Tractor Mike found this. I think it's VW, so I don't know if Randy or Totally VW or one of our VW guys are on can help us out with this. But regardless, it is super cool, even if it isn't VW. Check this thing out. Old school luggage rack. There's not much left of them, but it actually had suction cups on the ends. Metal rack, wood slats. It's got a sticker on it somewhere. Where's it at? LA Cow Automotive Accessory. So I thought this was pretty cool. It looks like something you see on an old VW. It's about that size, but like I said, I haven't had time to research it yet because I just got here a few hours ago. speaking of my days with Chrysler, let's see. Mike Wolf chases, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you're supposed to strap them down with the suction cups, John, but I'm not sure. It does kind of look like a tiny bed, actually, JP. I hadn't thought of that. But something else from that time period, which obviously I really like, is this awesome brochure, the Viper RT10 Technical Highlights. Now, this is early Viper. It's dated 92, so this is one of the very first pieces. Early promotional piece for Viper. Now, I didn't start with Chrysler until after I graduated college in 97. However, the Gen 2 Viper, which is what my Viper is, was very similar to the Gen 1. It was just a little more refined and it looked a little more aggressive. So the Gen 2 Viper was the ones that were on the showroom floors when I was traveling to dealerships. And that's why I was excited when I had the opportunity to buy a Gen 2 and add it to my collection. But a lot of great stuff in this Technical Highlights brochure. Tractor Mike is one bad dude. Tractor Mike giving himself kudos, but why not? What the heck? He brought some cool stuff today. Now, when we look at this, philosophy behind the Viper, Viper history, and we see right there a picture with Carroll Shelby sitting with the car. You've got to put yourself back in this time period. This car should have never in a million years been built. You know, you got to remember, this is 92. I had to stop and get a drink real quick. In 92, Corvette got the LT1. Trans Am Camaro was still Tuneport. So for Chrysler to build something like this, you know, like I said, Corvette was, I don't remember what the first LT1s were, but I don't even think they weren't even 300 horse. So for Chrysler to put a 400 horse V10 in a roller skate with no windows, no accessories, no air, no nothing, was insane and unheard of that this car would get built in that time period. So what's cool is to go back and look at this stuff now, but to really appreciate it, you've got to put yourself back in that time period because there wasn't much going on that was cool at that point. I mean, let's face it. You know, we were at the end of the third generation F-body. The fourth gens were just starting to come out, and they looked much better. They were much more aggressive. You know, they did start getting the LT1s, but, you know, for any car manufacturer to come out with something like this shortly after the 80s, and you've got to remember, the other thing about it is 10 years prior to this, just like when we talked about the K-Car limo video, 10 years before this, Chrysler was almost bankrupt. Chrysler was paying off the government loans just 10 years prior to this car being built. So for something like this to actually make production, unheard of. The Prowlers were, and I liked the Prowler. Of course, the Prowler came out when I was with Chrysler, so I was fairly familiar with them. Once again, a car that should have never been built, but they did it anyway. You know, they were not profit centers. They didn't make money on them, but they were definitely halo cars. You know, and here's another good example of how crude these cars were. If you can tell over here, it had a soft top you could fold out, and it had window curtains. I mean, these cars were literally designed to be a modern-day Cobra. That's where Carroll Shelby's involvement came in. That's what these cars were designed to be. They were unforgiving. They were crazy fast. And for the time period, now today, for These were about 400 horse. By the late 90s, they were like 450 horse, which was still unheard of at the time. Now, in today's world of Hellcats of 700 horse and Demons at 1,000 horse, it's crazy that it really is kind of somewhat overshadowed by where we're at in today's world. But considering the time that this car was built and produced and put into production was insane, unheard of. They were all V10s. Every Viper was a V10 with a 6-speed. That was it. There was no automatic. There was no V8. That's what you got. If you bought a Viper, you got a V10, you got a 6-speed. Learn how to drive it. If you can't, you shouldn't have it. And 400 horse and 450 pounds of torque in 94. Or 92, actually. I don't remember what they cost new off the top of my head, but, it's one of those things. One of the things about it, I still, to this day, I don't know where the picture's at, but I still, to this day, remember the very first Viper that I ever saw in person. It was sitting on a transport here in town on a 3-car slant. Everybody in town was driving by. I took pictures of it. Actually, I do remember one thing about it. It may have been Tractor Mike's, actually. It had Finney County plates because all the rich farmers live in Finney County. So it was probably some rich Finney County farmer because I do remember the car had Finney County plates. So maybe it was Tractor Mike's or maybe like one of his buddies, since it was probably some rich farmer that owned it. But I still to this day remember the first Viper that I ever saw in person. Yeah, and then they were crazy fast if you could drive them. So yeah, Guile remembers them, yep. Dr. Matthews. Tractor Mike remembers whose car it was, though. Dr. Matthews, he was a gynecologist in Garden City. Probably one of the first Vipers in Kansas, honestly. But so Tractor Mike remembers it well. That's crazy. I just figured it was probably his. He was just hiding it. Finney County, rich farmer. I kind of figured it all went hand in hand, but maybe I was wrong. But that's, there again, when you put today in today's world, this isn't that exciting based on the horsepower we see today. But when we think back in 1992, this was crazy that this car ever got built. But anyway, we'll need to keep moving. We got a couple more things that Tractor Mike dropped off today. So let's check those out. Now, something that I'm not a big fan of. And I've never been a smoker. Yeah, exactly, Guile, because I'm 50, so we're right in the same window. So remember it well. That's when I had the opportunity to buy the 99 RT10 that I've got. That's why I jumped all over it. So, but I've never been a smoker, so I've never really collected tobacco stuff. However, over the last couple of years, I've kind of started paying attention. For a lot of years, nobody paid attention to these signs, or these cigarette signs from the 50s and 60s. Over the last year or two, I've kind of developed an appreciation for them. Not a huge fan. I'm not going to go out and buy 100 of them, but I've kind of been keeping my eyes peeled. I passed on God knows how many of them over the years because, like I said, I don't smoke. I'm not a tobacco fan, never really cared for it. So, I don't know how many of them we passed on over the years, and literally they were worthless for years. I can remember even 20 years ago, you could buy them for like $10 because nobody cared. Obviously, in the sign world, that's all changing. But Tractor Mike did find us a cigarette sign that I actually think is pretty cool. Like I said, even though I'm not a big tobacco guy, what's great about him is there again. Hey, there's Leo. They were just like any other advertising from that era. It had to be bright. It had to be colorful. It had to catch your eye. And that's just what we've got on this come in sign for the Viceroy filter tip king size cigarettes. A thinking man's filter, a smoking man's taste. And this stuff is almost, in today's world, once again, comical when we go back into the 50s and 60s and we would literally see ads that said, #1 cigarette preferred by doctors. 92 Viper MSRP was $50 grand. Okay, thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. So but they were bringing 60 or 70. So anyway, I thought this thing was really cool, even though I'm not a big cigarette guy. And like I said, I've come to appreciate some of these signs, if nothing else, for somewhat of the comedy. A thinking man's filter, a smoking man's taste. The stuff that, obviously in today's world would be blatant, false advertising. But back then, where things were not quite as strict, a little bit looser, they got away with this stuff. And that's right, the ashtrays, everybody smoked back then. So there again, kind of a dart a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. So that's why, even though I'm not a smoker and not a fan of tobacco, I still think it's somewhat comical of what they did. And literally, I almost said attempted to get away with. They did get away with back in that time period. This is a metal sign. It's painted. Obviously, you can see it's got great colors. And, a thinking man's filter. They wanted you to think that the Viceroy was a dignified cigarette, I guess. So, but that's what they did back then. One more thing to take a look at, the Big Kahuna. And it's dirty. I don't know how well it's going to clean up. It definitely has fading, but I think it is crazy early. I don't even know if it's single-sided or not. I think it is. Yeah, single-sided. And this is a fresh barn find. Leo remembers buying cigarettes for his mom when he was 12. I guess if you got the money over the counter, that's all they were worried about. This next piece, fresh out of a container. Tractor Mike was at an auction a couple weeks ago. I get a text and he sends me this picture. Hey, you want this? I say, yeah, sure, absolutely. So he buys this container at an auction, buys the contents of the container. That's just it. You buy the contents. He spotted some tractor parts in there that he knew he wanted. He gets the container bought. Mike from Texas is here. And then as they moved down the auction, there was some stuff he wasn't interested in. He goes back, starts going through his container and starts digging stuff out, gets the tractor parts out he wants, starts laying stuff out, kind of seeing what he's got, what he wants to take home, what is just junk, things like that. So then all of a sudden, Tractor Mike got extremely popular at the auction because he pulled this out. Now, fortunately, he texted me, and because he knew he had a bunch of toy stuff for him. He's like, hey, you want this? Do some trading on that other stuff? I was like, shoot, yeah, I'll take it. Like I said, it's got some fading, it's got some chips, it's got some rust, but I think the fading is because I think it's a super early one. So let's check it out. Let's turn this thing around and take a look at the big piece Tractor Mike brought for us tonight. Check it out. Red Crown Gasoline. Tractor Mike is always popular at auctions. Not always. Sometimes you buy stuff other people want. So like I said, it's got some fading to it. But I think it's super early. Like 20s or 30s maybe. That's a lot of fireworks, lots of comments. See, everybody wants to be friends with Tractor Mike now. It is 42 inches in diameter. It is single-sided. And that's a good looking piece. Now, obviously we see the fading in it, so I think that's one thing that tells me it's really old. Another thing that leads me to believe that it's really early, we'll take a little closer look at it here, is the markings on it. You know, those markings look super early. You know, red crowns typically didn't fade like this. That's another reason why I'm thinking it's really early. We can see the details in the crown. I don't think there's bullet holes in it. That's actually a rust hole. You know, this could have been a sign that was, you know, got left laying flat on the ground. Peter says 33. And that, you know, I don't know if that means 33 on there. You know, sometimes that does on signs. If it just said 33, I would probably go with that. But since it says 5733, I'm not sure. There's also some other markings on it here. Obviously, this has not been cleaned at all. I have no idea how much of this will clean up. But still a pretty cool piece. So, there we have it. The cool stuff the Tractor Mike just dropped off earlier today. There goes the hearts. Awesome. So anyway, that's the stuff we just got in. Yeah, that's good, Shopcat. Oh, that's fine. So yeah, it's a neat piece. It, like I said, it's got some fading, but there again, it's got some great age to it and a pretty cool deal. So anyway, that's what we got just in from Tractor Mike today. Tractor Mike is back out in Western Kansas unloading his new pedal tractor, his toy tractor, his Model A, the Mack truck sign that I had for him. So yeah, we'll see how it cleans up. Big job. But so anyway, oh, we also got a 5010 with a turbo on it that day. So yeah, he had a good day. In fact, we'll have to get Tractor Mike to post the picture on the Nobody's page of when he pulled out today. I don't know if he took one or not. I'll send him one. He can throw it up there. He got the Model A on, and then he strategically placed his little pedal tractor in front of the Model A, strapped her down on the trailer. So he was rolling down the highway with the pedal tractor and then the Model A on his trailer. So it pretty cool. Good to hang out with him, spend a little time with him today. Probably won't see him until Mecum, Kansas City at this point. He's got a ton of milo to start cutting and a lot of wheat that needs to be planted. So we won't get to hang out probably until we go to Mecum in Kansas City. Speaking of which, any of you guys going to Mecum, Kansas City this year with us? But the Mack sign, yeah, I've got one. I actually had two of them. It was a double-sided, so I had one for Tractor Mike and one for me. We need to get that dug out here one of these days as well. But that's what we've got for tonight. Oh yeah, the Mack sign got thrown in on the deal too after the fact, so it's whatever. But not a problem. Anyway, I'll let you guys get going. Shoot, we're already 30 minutes in. A lot of cool stuff today, courtesy of our good friend Tractor Mike. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe Tractor Mike will throw up a few pictures on the No Buddies page of his stuff. And had a good time today. Got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow, but hey, it was worth taking a little time off to hang out with Tractor Mike today and sort out all of our cool stuff. So I appreciate that, Mike. Anyway, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for spending some time with us, and hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned. More cool content coming up tomorrow night. Don't forget the public video tomorrow night is that super amazing car, one of one factory competition car that Auburn Cord Duesenberg is working on, and then new old stock Mopar parts as well as a new old stock Mopar sign on Friday night's video. So you guys don't want to miss that stuff either. Be sure to check that out. I'm going to jump off, get back to work. Thanks for stopping by. Enjoy your evening, everybody. and I'm going to get back to work. Stay tuned. Catch those new videos. Sunday night, hey, there's Neil. Not as bad as everybody says so. Like I mentioned earlier, Sunday night, I am going to be out of town. We will try to jump on for a while unless my laptop goes haywire on us. We are going to attempt it. I don't know if it was my laptop or if it was YouTube last time that threw us cattywampus when we were doing a live when I was out of town. But Sunday night we will attempt something. I will put a notification up when I know what's going on, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that it works. So we hope to see you all back here Sunday night. Have a great week, everybody. Stay tuned for the new videos. We will see you Sunday.